Hey you, I'm Sarah Turner and I'm super excited to dig into exactly what makes a successful and profitable digital product like an online course. Now, the online course industry has absolutely exploded in the last 10 years, and it's easy to see why. We're able to get valuable information into the hands of people who need it most. Thanks to the internet, we can get access to quality information without having to go to places like college and get into tens of thousands of dollars of debt. I really see this as the great equalizer. It is making opportunities for people who would have otherwise never had access to it. Not to mention, people like you are able to take your experiences and package them up into an online course that has a really profound impact on both you as the course creator and the person taking the program. Personally, I believe digital product creation is one of the best ways to create more freedom for yourself because you untie your earning potential from your time. You get to create something that you can then sell over and over and over again, and that allows you to make money while you sleep. That elusive passive income, if you will. So this video is going to be a deep dive, and I'm actually going to be putting out videos that do an even deeper dive into every single topic we discuss here. So be sure to like and subscribe so you can get notified when these videos drop. Okay, so what are the 5 steps that I'm going to cover? First, how to ensure that you have a profitable topic idea, or if you already have a digital program, how you can look at it to make sure that you can refine it in order for it to be more successful. The second thing I'm going to talk about with you is your own financial and time goals, which is different than I'm sure what a lot of other people focus on when they're talking about how to create an online course. But this is really important because I want to make sure that you create something that fits into your dream for your life. That is how you're going to be able to show up and serve your students the best. That's also going to help you determine how to structure your offer. So we're going to loop those two things together. Then I'm going to talk with you about how to grow your audience or your tribe. And I have a unique lens through which I put all of my information. I'm going to help you distill down into which of the many different top of funnel strategies you should go all in with. So there are a lot of different options for growing your list, for getting in front of more people, but not all of them are going to be just right for you. And one of the biggest mistakes I see people make is they spin out into way too many different directions. They get burnt out and they give up. And I would never want that for you. So we're going to help you figure out how to pick just one. The fourth thing we're going to talk about is how to create an effective course curriculum. Now, again, I'm going to be doing deep dives in every single topic, so you want to be sure that you subscribe so you get notified when those are dropped. But today, I'm going to give you a bird's eye view of how to create a course curriculum that is actually effective. And let me tell you, this is a thing that a lot of people are missing in how they go about talking about digital course creation. Unfortunately, far too often, the content out there is focused on the creator's bottom line. And if you're short-sighted, you might create something that's successful initially, but once word gets around that it's actually not something that's truly impactful, you'll start to see your success dwindle and drop off. I am all about playing the long game, which is why when you have a truly effective course curriculum, you create a positive feedback loop. And what I mean by that is you are going to create bigger student successes, which is going to help you with your testimonials, which is going to help you with your sales, which is going to help you with getting the right people into your program. And it's also going to inform you as you make updates and improve the curriculum. And again, it's just that positive feedback loop, which will make you successful for a longer period of time. Because I would never want you to put a ton of effort and energy into creating something and to have it only work for a little while. I am all about sustainability, and that is so important as we think about what we're going to focus our attention on, and that is a big part of what we'll talk about today. The fifth thing we'll talk about is the marketing machine. This is the thing that most people who are talking about online course creation focus on. It is essential. It is the thing that you need in order to have a successful program. And if you're like me and are reluctant to marketing, that is where I started too. But let me tell you, marketing can be fun and in alignment, and that is something that I heavily emphasize in everything that I teach. And if you don't know a ton about it, it's okay. I'm going to simplify that for you today. Again, it's only one piece of the puzzle. If we're just talking about the marketing to get people into your programs and not about all the other things we're going to discuss today, you will eventually fizzle out. Now, before we dig in, I do want to briefly touch on who I am in case you're not already familiar with me, because this is going to show you that I might know a thing or two about what I'm talking about, and that's important, right? You want to make sure that you are absorbing quality information, especially in today's world where some of the information online is not always the best of the best. So first things first, I have over 11 years of experience in copywriting and in digital marketing, and that is important because I have seen so much change in the last decade. It's also important because I have a ton of experience in working with products that are not just my own. I cannot say that for other course creators. I also have over 6 years of experience teaching, and I've helped over 6,200 students create their own lucrative freelance writing businesses. Something worth noting about that particular number of students that I've had. You see, that program was extremely comprehensive. It was not just a piece of the puzzle. It took somebody from not knowing what copywriting was all the way to having a successful, thriving business. And my students have gone on to write for massive organizations like Google and Fenty and Audi and airlines and so many other wonderful businesses, but also lots of wonderful small businesses. And I want to point this out to you because my program has always been a high ticket program, meaning it was anywhere from between $2,000 to $6,800. Now, why is that important? Anyone in this space can tell you that they've maybe had 10,000 students. And while that sounds impressive, usually what that means is they had a much smaller offer, maybe a $47 product that didn't really solve a massive problem. And I want to highlight this for you because it is much more difficult to do what I've done, where I've taken people from having absolutely nothing to having a full-fledged business. And because of that, it really speaks to the credibility of the number of students that I've had. Another thing that my program and me accomplished was it was listed as number 24 in education on the Inc. 5000. And I have collectively generated over $61 million in sales. That's $24 million in course sales with Write Your Way to Freedom alone. And that's $37 million in sales as a copywriter and a marketer. Again, the reason this is even important at all is because I want to show you that I have experience not only in marketing my own program, but in working in many different industries and helping people be successful as a marketer and a copywriter. That is important because if you don't learn from somebody who doesn't have experience in many different industries, you're not going to get well-rounded advice. You're going to get information and advice that only worked on their one program. And I would invite you to do the math. When somebody says they've had X number of sales, divide it by the amount of students that they've had to see how big of an impact they actually had on those people's lives. Because it's relatively easy to sell a $47 product. It is not so easy to sell a $6,800 product. To successfully sell a $6,800 product, you must have a high quality product to be in business for 6+ years. You must be getting people results. I'm sharing all this with you because there's things embedded in my success that I want you to start thinking about applying to you so that you can also be successful. One more thing, I'm also a consultant for Meta. I teach them copywriting, and that again just speaks to my expertise. They have seen on the back end what I've done with my own Facebook ads and what I've done with clients' Facebook ads, and they reached out to me to teach their team about copywriting. And if you're not familiar with what copywriting is, you will need to know some of that, but that's what I'm here for in order to have a successful online business. It's one of the best skills that you can learn as a business owner, hands down. So let's answer that first question. How do you know if your idea is going to be lucrative and successful? And if you have a program already that maybe hasn't seen the results that you would like, what can you think about to maybe reposition yourself in order to be more successful? All right, let's talk about picking a profitable course topic. Now, this is the big question that so many people have. It's the thing that people get hung up on and often the thing that prevents them from getting started in the first place. And it makes me so sad when I see people get stuck in this particular process because something you're going to hear me preach over and over and over again is that you must take imperfect action all along the way, because it's not until you actually put something out into the world and receive feedback on it that you will truly know if it is a good and profitable idea. Now, there's a lot we can do beforehand to make sure that we have a pretty good idea we're headed down the right path, right? So the first thing you want to do is you want to solve a problem. Your program should solve a problem. You should be able to tell me what is the transformation that the person taking your program is going to experience as a result of taking your program. Now, these transformations can be big, they can be small. They could be as small as helping somebody feel more confident in the kitchen, or helping decorate their house better for the holidays so that they're proud of the way it looks. It doesn't have to be a money-making endeavor. That makes people feel a lot better and confident in their own home. I would say that's a really powerful transformation. The next step you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna identify your ideal customer avatar, or your ideal client avatar, your ICA. Now you're going to want to know so much about them, their demographics, the things that frustrate them, ideally something that you can help them with, right? Their goals, their behaviors, their value graphics, as in the things that they believe in. One of the most helpful things that you can do when defining an ICA, what I like to think of as a shortcut, is to imagine someone in your life that would be perfect for your program. Then, when you have that person in mind, write down things about them, write their interests. What movies do they like? What music do they listen to? Where do they hang out? What social media platform are they most likely hanging out on? All of these things are going to help you identify your ICA a little bit better. Anytime I'm creating a program, a digital product, or writing copy, or creating marketing materials, having a person or two in your mind is a shortcut to making this more impactful. The next thing you're going to want to do is market research. Now, let me tell you, market research does not have to be nearly as intimidating as it might sound. The first thing I want you to look for is, has somebody already created a program like yours out there? And now, here's the thing. If you find something out there that already exists, you don't need to dig into the nitty-gritty of it. In fact, I'd encourage you not to prevent plagiarism, even accidental plagiarism. Take a look at some of the marketing materials they have around whatever their program is and see if it is similar to your idea. If that already exists, that is a good thing. Sometimes people get discouraged by that, but it's actually a good thing because it tells you that there's probably a market for it. Now, there's something I want you to keep in mind as you're doing this. Sometimes you'll find a program that is in a different niche but is working for that particular niche, and maybe your idea is to serve a different ICA, or an ideal customer avatar. For example, maybe you work with food bloggers or people who create food-based content on Instagram, and you have an idea for an online course, and you see it exists, but it doesn't specifically serve this market. That is a great thing to discover, because now you've identified something that differentiates you, and you've probably validated your overall idea. You can use things like the social media algorithm, make it work for you by doing some searches, talking into your phone so it can hear you and send you some stuff creepily. Use Google, look at YouTube. They have a really great search function, so use that. And then check out course hosting platforms like Teachable and Skillshare. Now, another thing I want to encourage you to do, because I've noticed there's a massive divide between men and women in this space, is make sure you're not only looking at creators that are the same gender as you. Women have a tendency to look for other women creators, and men have a tendency to look for other men creators, and what they miss is each other. So make sure you're looking at both sides. I see people trip up on this a lot. The next thing you can do is talk to your existing audience and network. Oftentimes people are going to create a course in something they already have an experience or expertise in, and that's great because you probably already have a network that's somewhat interested in this topic. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there on social media, even if you don't have a following, but it's some of your friends, and ask them about their interest in things. Now, I do want you to be careful in taking in too much advice. Because, for example, sometimes if you were to ask a group of people, hey, I'm thinking about creating a course, would you pay $500 for this course? People are probably going to just say no. So you want to take everything with a grain of salt. In fact, I like to filter my advice through this question, have they been where I'm trying to go? And so when I ask people advice, if they've been where I'm trying to go or they've accomplished what I'm setting out to do, then I will take their advice much more seriously than I would somebody who has literally never done what I'm trying to do before. Now, they might be my ICA and I've never done what I'm trying to do before. I will still take that advice in, but I will make sure that there is a massive bookmark that this person might not know what they're talking about. Now, the next thing I want you to do is to consider creating what people call a minimum viable product. This is a really simple concept and it can look a few different ways. You could create something that's much smaller and try to sell that. Maybe it's a mini course or a workshop or a webinar. The one thing I want to add here is if it's not successful right out the gate, don't be discouraged. Again, if you've done that market research and you're pretty sure that there's a way it could be successful because other ideas have been successful that are similar, sometimes pre-selling can be a little discouraging, especially to your immediate network, if they are not the right audience. Like maybe you've been a real estate agent for the last 10 years and most of your network is other real estate agents. And now you want to create a course on aging gracefully for women in their 50s and older. What if everybody in your network is in their 20s? And you put yourself out there, you create a minimum viable product, and you hear crickets. That does not mean that your course idea is bad, but it is a really good idea to try and start engage interest with your immediate network. Now, I will tell you a story. When I created Write Your Way to Freedom and I put it out to my initial network, which was basically zero, it was truly just friends and family, I thought that I would hear no response. I just put it out there because I was trying to get braver and putting myself out there, quite frankly. And I was shocked. I had 8 people sign up for the very first iteration of my product. So push yourself, give it a try, put yourself out there. You can also do what's called a beta test, where you basically outline what you're thinking about including in your program, and then you say that that is what you're going to be working with people on. You're going to bring in a few people and have them go through your process step by step in a small group setting, usually like a group coaching setting or something like that, where they're going to have access to your process, your ideas, the transformation for a much lower rate. You should absolutely still charge for it because people will show up differently if they actually have skin in the game and have paid for it. And then they will be giving you feedback so that you understand maybe where your blind spots are. This is what I did that helped me validate my program, Write Your Way to Freedom. I took 2 women through a process that I was pretty sure was going to work. And it worked so well, they both quit their jobs within 3 months of working with me. I was blown away. And in that process, they asked questions that I was like, these are really good questions. I'm going to incorporate that into my program. And because I had been copywriting at that point for a few years, there were questions that they asked me that I realized I kind of took for granted. So really, truly, I think a beta test with any new program, any new offer is a great idea, no matter what. Now, as you're going through the process of really defining your profitable idea, I want you to think about 2 things. 1, how are you different? What are you doing to differentiate yourself from what is already out there? And 2, how can you infuse you into it? Because at the end of the day, a lot of times people purchase your program versus somebody else's because they like you and they resonate with you. So infusing your stories, your experience, and all of that into what it is you're creating is going to be a really powerful differentiator right out the gate. Now, again, I'm going to create a video that does a much, much deeper dive into exactly this process. So don't forget to subscribe and you'll get a notification when that's dropped. Okay, now let's talk about your money and time goals and structuring your offer. It is so important that you keep your own personal goals top of mind when you are structuring your offer, because at the end of the day, I want you to create something that also works for you. Because if you create something that takes up way too much of your time, you're going to burn yourself out. Because ultimately, your success lies at the intersection of what lights you up and energizes you and solving real world problems. So before you start structuring your offer, I want you to think about how much money do you want to earn in a year with this? How much in a month? How much in a day? Now, remembering digital products are super powerful because you can mostly create it on the front end and then sell it over and over and over again. So I remember my first financial goal was in my first year, I wanted to make $100,000. But pretty quickly I was like, I think I might be playing small with that because digital products are so powerful. Again, because you can sell them over and over again. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to kind of shoot for the moon and make my first goal $1 million. And guess what? I crossed that threshold in the first year. Now, the people who tend to gravitate towards me are big, heart-centered entrepreneurs, and they tend to not charge enough. They underestimate what their program is worth and what their time is worth, and I hate that. And that's why I'm here to push back on it. I want to encourage you to create something that is a more premium product. So $500 or more. Now, here's the thing. I have people usually pick a price point that fits within their own financial goals and then build their program to that price point. Because if you just build your program and you don't think about the price point, the target that you're going for, you will build a runaway program. And then you will suddenly realize, oh, whoa, I have a $3,000 program, which isn't a problem, but you don't want to create a $3,000 program right out the gate. You want to start with something that's a little bit more manageable. $300 to $500 is a sweet spot, in my opinion. The other thing that I want you to really adopt into your mindset is that you should have a healthy profit margin. The great thing about digital products is you can have healthy profit margins that are anywhere from like 40 to 60%, which when you compare that to other industries is downright bananas. So having a healthy profit margin is really important because it allows you to hire people, which will help take some of the work off your plate so that you can create more free content, so that you can show up for people who maybe can't afford to work with you. And that is a really important part of this process. The other reason I want you to think about having a premium program and focused on having good profit margins is it's so important to have a good savings so that you can weather any storms. I've been doing this for a while now, and I've seen how so many course creators have a blip of success and it immediately is taken away because of a shift in algorithm. And lo and behold, they went out and they bought a Lambo, and now they don't have savings to weather the storm while they figure out how to work with this change in the algorithm. Not to mention, it's super important to take your profits and to infuse it back into your business, because when you do that, you will make your business stronger and you will have much happier customers, which will result in loyalty and a growth in your reputation. And it's just, again, that positive feedback loop. The other reason I want to recommend that you start thinking about premium products, something that's a little bit more expensive, is because it takes the same amount of time, energy, and money, whatever it is that you're using to kind of leverage pulling in new audience members. It takes the same amount to bring in people no matter what you're selling. So if you need 100 people to sell a $47 product, it's going to take the same amount of energy, time, and money to bring in 100 people to sell a $1,000 product. So when you have a premium product, you're leveraging that same audience better. So I want you to think about this in the big picture, because all too often people kind of just create runaway programs, or they pick something that's really time intensive and they burn out. So here are a couple different things to consider when you are actually structuring your offer. You can have one-on-one elements like individual calls. That's going to be more time intensive, but also you can charge more for something like that. Then you've got group programs where you kind of lump people together, maybe on some group calls. I'm a big fan of including that in some element of your product. Then you have digital products, including online courses. Now, those can be pretty passive, not include any one-on-one elements, not include any group coaching, and not include as much of your time. And then you've got communities. And communities are super powerful. This is where you can kind of get everybody together who are working on the same thing. They can connect, and then ultimately, after enough time has passed, and if you've created a good culture, they will support each other. And then, of course, you have hybrids, which is just basically some sort of combination of those things. Now, in my very strong opinion, I think it's a good idea to have a community as a part of a paid program. That allows for people to get together, to compare notes, to support each other, and it takes a bit of the pressure off of you. Not to mention, it's the feel-good part of a program. Nobody is like, woohoo, I loved working through all the lessons today. They aren't, not really, but they are excited about the friends that they made along the journey. I cannot tell you enough, in my programs, people are always raving about the community and the community support. Do they need the course? Absolutely. The course is the path. The course is what takes them from A to Z. But the community is what feels good. So with those elements in mind, you want to think about how much of them do you want to incorporate into your offers. Now, if you're creating a beta test, you'll probably have something that's a little bit more hands-on. In fact, I recommend maybe bringing on a few one-to-one clients or a group coaching situation so that you can learn from them and then integrate it. The thing is you will also learn a ton from that because you'll be having interaction. You'll be able to incorporate it into a course or a digital product that is more passive later on. That's a very common progression. And then, of course, you can always include communities, and that is something that is also going to give you really wonderful feedback on your actual program. But you don't have to do any of this. You don't have to do one-to-one. You could just do a digital product. You could just do an online course. That is totally an option. It just depends on your time, financial, and impact goals. So real quick, I want to lay all these different options out in a graph that shows you the time versus profitability potential based on the inputs that it requires from you. Okay, let's take a look at this together. In the upper left-hand side, you will see one-to-one programs, right? This is not really what we consider an online course, but I want to include it because it often is the first step and is sometimes baked into people's programs. But it is not a digital product, right? It is not just a course. So any one-to-one services. Now, it is high time commitment because you are doing it to one person. And it has a low profitability potential because you will be capped by your time. You cannot create more time. And if you figure that out, please let me know. And then the next thing that you'll see on this is groups. So groups, again, because you're able to serve more people, kind of scoots down in the profitability potential and scoots down in the time commitment. Now, in the middle of profitability potential and at the bottom of time are digital products. This was hard for me to place because digital products can range from all kinds of things. You know, you could have a $7 product, you could have a $1,000 product, a $2,000 product that's completely passive and just a digital product. But the thing here is digital products are scalable, so it's scooting up higher in the profitability potential and it's way down low in the time commitment. So if you are somebody who does not have a lot of time, or maybe just like your heart's not in it and you don't want to show up and do one-on-one, then you might want to consider a digital product. Now the next dot over is communities, and you'll see that again, it's moved up higher than digital products on the time access. And that's because it does take some time. But it's lower than one-to-one. And actually communities, once you've established a pretty good culture, they can kind of run themselves. Or you can hire somebody to help manage your community, and that can decrease the amount of time commitment. However, I really think it's a good idea to set that tone first as a creator. And you'll see communities are pretty high in the profitability potential. But again, there's so many things that actually play into this. So there's a lot of variables when it comes to communities. Next, we've got courses, and I'm going to include anything that is $2,000 or less as not a high ticket course. So $2,000 courses and lower, we have a much higher profitability potential than everything else because it's not capped in time. And also I'm kind of differentiating courses from digital products because I'm assuming that they're more in depth. Digital products might be ebooks, checklists, things like that. Anything that is not a digital course. And then courses are a little bit less on the time access, but higher on the profitability potential. And again, that's because it's scalable, right? It's something that you can create and then sell over and over and over again. And then all the way in the upper right-hand corner, we've got a high time commitment and a high profitability potential. This is the thing that is really going to make you the absolute most money if you decide to go that route, and that is high ticket. So anything that is $3,000 or more, something that would need to be sold by a salesperson or a closer or yourself, is going to be a high ticket program. And that is really the thing that has the highest potential for profitability. Now, there is no one right answer here, and usually people have a program that starts out as one thing and then ends up as another. You know your time and your financial goals best, so keep all of this in mind as you're picking and structuring your offer. So ask yourself, which of these components do you want to include in your online course, and which ones are the most likely to help you achieve your goals and most likely to have an impact? And then be realistic with yourself. Like, what bandwidth do you have in order to make the best version of this? Because I would recommend that you always create the best version of whatever it is with whatever time and energy you have to commit to it. Okay, now let's talk about growing your audience, because you got to get bodies into your program somehow. Now, you have a lot of different options, and what I have noticed is that usually people who teach course creation, they focus on the strategy that worked best for them, and pretty much that's all they teach on. But it's most important to me that you find the strategy that is right for you so that you're building a life that fits your personal goals. So I want to talk to you about a few different top of funnel strategies. Now, if you are unfamiliar with the phrase top of funnel, a funnel or a pipeline is a term in marketing used to talk about the customer journey that people go on. And the reason it's called a funnel is because it's shaped like a funnel, and at the top of the funnel, that's where you have the most people come in. But as you get towards the bottom, you have fewer and fewer leads that actually purchase. If you have 100 people come through your funnel, maybe only 1% will purchase. And that is fairly common. So the concept, though, is that the top of funnel is the strategy you will pick in order to draw people into your program. Now let's talk about what some of those are and the pros and cons of both so that you can figure out what's best for you. So you've got your organic strategies and your paid strategies. Organic strategies are sustainable. They build credibility and authority. YouTube videos like this is an organic strategy. Then you've got paid, like paid advertisements, like YouTube ads or Facebook ads. Paid strategies can be easier to scale. There's usually a faster timeline because you're getting people through your funnel more quickly, so you can test things and kind of iterate a little bit more quickly, generally. They require a continuous budget, meaning when you turn ads off, you turn off lead flow. Now let's talk a little bit more about the pros and cons of organic versus paid. First, let's talk about cost effectiveness. As you can probably imagine, with organic, it's typically free, so it's a more budget-friendly option. If you don't have a lot of resources to start out with, you're gonna probably pick an organic lead generation option. Paid requires upfront costs because you're paying for ads. So if you have finances, maybe you're short on time, but actually have some money you can invest into ads, then that might be the better fit for you. Then you've got your reach. Growth tends to be more gradual and at the mercy of algorithm changes with organic. Sometimes you'll get lucky, but just don't count on that. What's most important with organic strategies is consistency. Next, we've got trust and credibility. Organic is far better than paid lead generation for trust and credibility because people are much more likely to become a loyal customer or to trust you and feel like they have a long-term connection with you when they find you organically. People are typically much more skeptical of paid ads. Then we've got the time investment. Organic is typically more time consuming, whereas ads or paid lead generation is typically less time intensive. So again, if time is a big factor for you here, then you might want to go the paid route versus the organic route. Then we've got audience targeting. Organic doesn't have the same amount of targeting as paid ads. Generally, there's so many caveats worked in there, but that's a general statement. Really, with organic, you have to get good at doing organic so that you're reaching just the right people in order for it to work in this way. Performance insights are generally better with paid ads. That doesn't mean they don't exist with organic strategies. This is again just kind of a general overview here, but there are some exceptions, but something worth keeping in mind. And with brand development, organic is typically better at creating more authenticity and connection. Ads can actually help this, but I wouldn't say it's a strength of ads. And then when it comes to adaptability, I would say, I don't know, man, everything has changed so much in the last few years, but organic tends to rely on the algorithms a bit more. I mean, don't get me wrong, ads are literally run on algorithms, but there's seems to me a little bit more volatility in the organic lead generation than in the paid lead generation. Although arguments could be made that it can be volatile in either. It really just depends on the year and the particular type of strategy you're talking about. But it is something to consider. I tend to think that paid ads are more reliable than organic. And then visibility comfort. This is a super huge consideration for people. You are going to probably need to be comfortable being visible online with an organic strategy, whereas with a paid lead strategy like ads, you don't really have to be that visible online. In fact, that's why I started with Facebook ads, because I had no intention of being a face online. I did not want to do that, and the only reason I do it today is because I've grown in my comfort levels and because I've seen the impact of my own organic information. I'm actually able to help people who can't afford to work with me, and the response I've gotten is just incredible. So it was worth it to me to push back against some of the discomfort to be able to show up and be visible online in organic ways. Okay, now let's go through, now that we've talked about the pros and cons, because you're probably thinking at this point, all right, I'm either in one of these two camps. Now let's talk about what they actually are. So when it comes to organic audience building options, we have things like search engine optimization, writing blogs that specifically are designed to show up at the top of a Google search. Now, a lot of people tend to think that SEO is dead, but it brought $1 million plus into my business in the last 2 years. So I still am a big fan of SEO. Then we've got social media marketing. So posting on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, all of that would be included in an organic strategy. And you don't have to do all of them. It can be just one of them. Another organic audience building option would be influencer collaborations. Now, this actually can also be included in the paid. It depends on obviously if you're paying them, but if you're trading or you have a relationship and they have an audience and you're doing something to get in front of another group's audience, it could also be an organic audience building option. Another one is community building. So creating some sort of free community where you're funneling people in and then ultimately kind of creating a lot of value for them to ultimately pitch them on whatever your paid program is. Then there's video marketing strategies like YouTube. I tend to think that YouTube organic is one of the best, if not the best, organic strategy because it's also a search engine. So it can get right in front of the people who are already searching for the solution that you have in your program. Then there's podcasting. You could create a podcast yourself, or you could be a guest on a podcast. That's another organic option. You could create webinars and workshops, things that are free. You would need some sort of other audience to get in front of, but it can be a great way for you to grow your email list. And then there's speaking events. You can do this in person or virtually, but there's a lot of opportunities for speaking if that is your jam. Then you've got your PPC or your pay-per-click option. You know, this is where people pay to show up in a search result in Google. You've got social media ads like Instagram ads, Facebook ads, TikTok ads. You've got video ads like YouTube ads. You've got paid influencer marketing. There's also Instagram shoutouts where you pay to have a user mention your brand or your product or your service. There's affiliate marketing. I have my students do this, but you could also allow people who are pro affiliates promote your program on your behalf, and then they make a commission. There's email marketing campaigns where you can get in front of other people's email lists. You can actually do that organically as a trade. You could also do that in a paid setting. And then there's sponsored content. So blogs, articles, podcasts, a lot of those things can be paid strategies. Now, before we move on, there's something I want to be sure to touch on. All of these strategies, in my very strong opinion, should lead to collecting email addresses so that you can continue the conversation via email. And there's a number of reasons for that. One, people are unlikely to purchase the first time they interact with you. So collecting their email allows you to have control over the conversation and to continue it for months and sometimes even years. I cannot tell you the amount of people who have come into my program, who have been on my email list for years. And that's because it might not be the right time in their life. They might need a little bit of nurturing. They might have needed to overcome something in order to be ready to take your program. And so when you are making sure that everything leads to your email list, you are also reinforcing all of the efforts that you put into your top of funnel strategy. I would hate, absolutely hate, to see you create reels every single day and not be collecting email addresses. That is an absolute waste of your time and energy, or really it's just not an efficient use of your time and energy. So in your strategy, I want you to think about how you can be collecting email addresses and continuing the conversation via email newsletters all along the way. Now let's talk about how to create something that is actually an effective course curriculum. Again, this is the thing that I would love to just shout from the rooftops because I see so many people talking about how to create a successful course and this is not even included in it. But it is so important that you are integrating things into your online program that encourages and excites people to actually do the work, because that's how they get the results. That's how they get the transformation. And that is how you set yourself, your business, your program up to be successful for years to come, and not to just be something that was successful for a blip in time. Within your program, there's a few things I want you to keep in mind. One, once you have people going through it, especially if it is a digital product, a digital course where you are not heavily involved, so no one-to-one, no group coaching, none of that. It's like a true digital product, a true digital course. You are going to need to create a nurture email sequence that draws people back into your learning materials. And that can be as simple as highlighting a lesson, highlighting a call, highlighting a takeaway or a win, highlighting a student success story, because when people see that other people are succeeding, it inspires them to finally take action. Because yes, they probably join their program because they connect with you, but they're going to see themselves in other people's experiences as well, which is why it is also essential that you are highlighting student successes as well as highlighting how they took your program and they made it work for them. Because your students have a lot that they're bringing to the table. They have a lot to give, quite frankly, insight-wise, to help other people succeed. This is why every single month I have multiple student success story interviews that we do inside the community, because I want to share different experiences. I want people to show how they have overcome certain obstacles. Maybe they have a learning disability and they can share how they navigated that, how they made the program work for them, and that will impact your other students and make them really excited to keep going. And that's so important. Motivation is a key part of this process. So when you're creating your curriculum, with every single thing that you teach, you need to be talking about the why and the how. Because if people don't understand why it matters, if they don't have that context, they will dismiss it. It will not be something that is retained as important for them. And then you need the how, obviously, because it's how they actually accomplish whatever that important task is. So anytime you are creating a lesson, I want you to make sure that you have integrated the why and the how. The other thing that people need in order to be successful is like they have control over their own learning. And the way you can help them with that is by giving them different choices to kind of show up in the way that they learn best. So for example, in my lessons, I always include a video with slides, a workbook that is super thorough and a standalone resource, so that they can also take action and integrate what they learned all along the way. There's also a variety of exercises that you can integrate in order to help them. What this does is it taps into different learning styles. It helps people who are visual learners. It helps people who are auditory learners and people who need something tangible to really make something concrete in their mind. Also, getting them to celebrate their success all along the way, even if it is completing a part of your program, is super important. So I make sure to integrate that into the messaging of my community, if you have a community, and of the program itself. Integrating little checkpoints or milestones so that they can celebrate how far they've come is really powerful. It's why in a lot of course hosting platforms, we see that gamification of the actual program. It can be as simple as marking complete. That's actually very satisfying for our brain. Or when you click something and all the confetti pops out. Things like that are actually really powerful in continuing sustained motivation. Something else that you want to be sure to integrate into your curriculum is remembering that people are intrinsically motivated, meaning when you can take whatever you're teaching and reconnect it back to how it applies to their internal world, you are going to be so much more motivating for them as a leader. This is why all of my programs include mindset work. For most tasks that we do, especially the ones that have a lot of resistance, maybe it's about putting yourself out there, for example, that's one that has a ton of resistance. I make sure to talk about, address, and overcome some of the most common mindset hurdles. Because more often than not, we have some beliefs about ourselves, or maybe we have a belief that we adopted as a child. And sometimes if those are left unchecked, then they can prevent us from actually seeing success in a particular part of our life. An example that's common in my particular programs is working with people on money mindset stuff. I tend to attract a lot of heart-centered women who honestly give so much of themselves. And then when it comes time to, charging for something, they will charge absolute pennies for their time. And so it's a big part of what we work on is starting to have them value their time, to see what it's worth, and to integrate that into their pricing so that they can achieve their actual financial goals. So we talk a lot about money mindset, and I have them look at their own life and really identify where some of these ideas might have come from, and then get them to examine and ask themselves, is this a belief that they want to keep? Is it something that's serving them? Is it even something that they actually even agree with? Because oftentimes we let our beliefs kind of run our lives subconsciously and they go unexamined. And so we have no idea just how impactful and sometimes self-sabotaging they can even be. Keeping your students engaged and motivated is essential to having a successful program. Some other ideas that you can incorporate into your digital course so that it is very successful include having them share exercises or things that they're working on with a community. This could be in a video, having them take something that they're actually working on, tangibly do it, and then quote unquote share it with the class. Another thing you should do is always have them reconnect to why it is worth their time and energy and how it will benefit them if they actually do the work. So constantly reminding them of the transformation that had them sign up for your program in the beginning. Also ask people to share, especially if you have a community element, their own personal experience and their own examples, because that will make the thing that you are teaching all the more richer. It will also give you ideas for marketing. And if you don't have a community, this can be done in the comments under a lesson in most online course hosting platforms. Another thing you might want to incorporate are self-assessments or checklists or some other to-do at the end of each lesson or the end of each module. Something that allows them to know that they are on the right track, that they are doing it right. Because most of us grew up going to school, so many of your students are going to want that A+. They're going to want a pat on the back to know that they're headed the right direction. Also because nobody likes spinning their wheels and not getting anywhere. So whatever you can do to incorporate into your program to make sure that they are getting that positive feedback all along the way is going to keep them more motivated. All right, finally, to have a successful online course, you need a marketing machine or a funnel. So a funnel, as we kind of briefly talked about before, is the journey that a customer goes on, the customer journey, from not knowing who the heck you are to purchasing your program and all the steps that happen all along the way. They allow you to put your marketing on autopilot. So at this point, you might be thinking, holy heck, this sounds like a lot. But really, truly, you just have to start small. Start with a beta test, bring 2 people through. You're going to get so excited when they achieve their transformations that you're going to be thrilled to start making your lessons, thrilled to start making your marketing content. And that is just the process. As you continue to grow, continue to make new iterations, always making things better and improving them all along the way. That is the process. You start small. But one of the most amazing things about building a funnel is that it automates the process that people go through into purchasing your program, and it puts it on autopilot. So let me go over kind of a basic funnel, and I have some really reassuring information from you in working on my own funnel and then working on other people's funnels. Okay, so let's look at a funnel overview specifically for a online course. So all the way on the left-hand side, we've got our top of funnel. So this is, again, how your potential customer is going to find you. And I already went over how you can kind of start to decide what top of funnel strategies are best for you. Maybe it's a podcast, maybe it's a blog, maybe it's an ad, a YouTube video, an Instagram reel. However they find you, what will happen next is you are going to create a lead magnet, or something that they will give you an email address in exchange for. For example, it could be a checklist, an ebook, recipes, a masterclass, whatever it is, something that is valuable that they think, oh my gosh, please take my email. I would love what you have to offer. A common one for online education programs is a VSL, or a video sales letter, often called a webinar, a workshop, a masterclass. And that's where you do education on your particular thing, and at the end you pitch your program. Now, this is the thing. When you are thinking about whatever your lead magnet is, you want to make sure that it's something that is taking them closer to wanting to purchase your program. Now, with all marketing, it's important to remember that you are not marketing to everyone. In fact, you shouldn't be. You are going to write your copy to somebody who is perfect for your program, and that is how you keep it ethical and aligned. So when you've thought about the idea of your program, the next thing you want to think is, what is the thing that will take them one step closer to needing or wanting my program? Oftentimes, it's overcoming a particular mindset hurdle. Maybe they have a belief that they can't do it, or maybe they have a belief that they need a huge audience in order to be successful. Then maybe your lead magnet is how they can be successful with no audience at all. So you have probably come across a bazillion lead magnets in your scrolling through different social media platforms. And I want you to start paying attention to these lead magnets as you go about your life. Sometimes it's even worth it to just opt in to see what the lead magnet is, to start to look at some of the different ideas people have come up with, because there is an incredible amount. The next part of your funnel is usually a sales email sequence. So they've traded their email address in exchange for your lead magnet, right? And now they're going to get a series of sales emails that are written specifically with the intention of selling your program. So the point of these emails is to continue nurturing that relationship. So oftentimes the sales email sequence could be 7 emails, could be 14, it could be 21. These will live in an email service provider. But really, it's not as complicated as it seems. You're going to write a bunch of emails. You're going to include some stories, some testimonials, whatever it might be, overcome some objections. That ultimately has the goal of selling your program. In those emails, like in the first email, for example, you're going to deliver that lead magnet. So you deliver your promise, and you're going to talk a little bit more about who you are, what you do, what your program does. And you will then link to a sales page or a checkout page, depending on how small or simple it is, but usually to a sales page where you go more in depth into what the actual program is. And it also has the option to make that purchase. And then if they buy, you've done it. You've had a successful funnel purchase. And if they don't purchase, you're going to go ahead and continue sending out emails, usually once a week, once a month, once every other week. It just depends on what your bandwidth is, where you build that relationship and continue to nurture that relationship until they're ready to buy for you. And you're just going to continue to nurture that relationship and continue providing value. So here's the most amazing thing about this. So often you will create these materials and they will sell for you on basically autopilot, with the only input needing to be your top of funnel strategy, for years. Some of the emails that I have written in my funnel have been the exact same emails for 6 years. Some of the sales pages that I have written for clients are still running for almost 8 years. So this is the power of it. You're going to do a lot of the work on the front end, and then it's going to be something that you can sell over and over and over again for years to come. And that is why it is so freaking powerful. Now, this was a beefy video, but I'm going to be doing an even deeper dive in every single section we just covered. So be sure to hit subscribe so you can get notified again when I release those, and so you can continue to learn and grow if you are interested in creating online courses or digital products. And if this was helpful, go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. It means a lot to me. It also tells me what you're interested in so I can keep creating more helpful content for you. Thanks for showing up today. And of course, always leave me questions in the comments or ideas for future videos. I'm always open to hearing what you want to see.